Hey there, Math 8. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Math with Mullins. Let's go ahead and get started with our quiz review. We are looking at our 3.1 through 3.3 quiz review, and the first section we have is graphing inequalities. The first one, you could keep it like this and just figure out what could x be so that my inequality could be true. I can't put a positive number there because a positive number is not bigger than 0, but I could put a negative one, like -1 or -2. So that means I would have a closed circle pointing left, but some of you might have rewritten this as x is less than or equal to 0, and that's a little bit easier to graph. Number 2, m is greater than or equal to -1. That means a closed circle pointing to the right. 3, v is less than 6. That's an open circle pointing left. And then number 4, b is greater than -1. That's an open circle pointing to the right. As we continue on, writing an inequality for each graph, number 5 should be x is less than 1. That's an open circle pointing left. Number 6 should be x is less than or equal to -4. That's a closed circle pointing left. Number 7, we can say x is less than -2. That's an open circle pointing left. And then number 8, x is greater than -3 because it's an open circle pointing right. Now we're ready to solve each inequality and then graph its solution. So let's go ahead and get started with it. Number 9, we subtract 5 from both sides, so we get a is less than 1. When we graph that, we have 1 here, 0 and a 2. That's an open circle pointing left. For the next one, we needed to add 14 to both sides. So -11 plus 14 is a positive 3. So we should get x is less than 3. The graph would be an open circle pointing to the left. Number 11, as we divide by -5, we're going to have to flip the inequality symbol. So 65 divided by -5, I believe that's -13, is now less than or equal to n, or we rewrite this as n is greater than or equal to -13. As we graph that with 13 in the middle, -13 in the middle, a -14 and maybe a -12 here, we can close the circle and point it to the right. Okay. For number 12, we are dividing both sides by 14. So we're just going to figure out what is 252 divided by 14. That should have given you 18. So 18 is greater than or equal to n, or n is less than or equal to 18. So as we graph that one, we have 18, 19, and 17. I'm just doing simple numbers for today. That's a closed circle pointing left. Number 13, we started by adding 9 to both sides. -39 plus 9 is a -30. That is less than or equal to -6v. Be very careful here because we are dividing by a -6 on both sides, which means we need to flip our inequality symbol. -30 divided by -6 is a positive 5. Flipping it becomes greater than or equal to v, but we can rewrite this as v is less than or equal to positive 5. That means on the number line, we should see a closed circle pointing left. Number 14, again, same deal here. I'm going to add 4 to both sides first. So I get n over 4 is less than or equal to 2. Because I'm seeing n divided by 4, I need to times by 4 on both sides. So the 4's cancel out. I get n is less than or equal to 8. As I graph this, I'm going to have a closed circle pointing left for my answer. Sorry, the 8 looked a little weird. A little better. There we go. Number 15, again, finding out where I need to move my numbers or my variables. Looks like I need to add 22 to both sides. So all I'm doing is adding 22 to a -60. I'm going to get -38. So r is greater than or equal to -38. That means on my graph, I have a -38, maybe a -37 on the right side and a -39 on the left side. That should be a closed circle pointing right. For number 16, I'm adding 6 to both sides. These positive and -6's cancel out, so all that's left is n. I have a -44 though adding with a 6, that means I'm going to get a negative 38. On my graph, n is less than negative 38, just means I would have an open circle pointing left. 17, to solve this one, I'm going to multiply both sides by 18, which should be very easy. So I get 18 is greater than or equal to x, or to rewrite it, x is less than or equal to 18. That is an easier way to write it just for helping us graph correctly. So graphing x is less than or equal to 18 is a closed circle pointing left. And then for number 18, I'm dividing both sides by negative 4. Being very cautious here, I need to flip my inequality symbol because I'm dividing by a negative. 112 divided by a negative 4 is negative 28. So I get negative 28 is greater than or equal to x, or I can flip it around and say x is less than or equal to negative 28, which makes it easier when I'm ready to graph. As I'm graphing, x is less than or equal to negative 28. That's going to be a closed circle pointing left. 19, we started off by adding 5 to both sides. My 5's on the left cancel out. I'm left with n over 11 is less than or equal to 3. Then to continue solving, I had to multiply by 11 on both sides, which gives you n is less than or equal to 33. As I graph this one, I have a nice positive 33 in the middle with maybe a 34 on the right and a 32 on the left. This should be a closed circle pointing left. For number 20, you're adding 5 to both sides. So I get n divided by 3 is less than or equal to negative 13. To solve it, I need to multiply by 3 on both sides. My 3's on the left cancel out, so all that's left is n is less than or equal to negative 39. So as I graph that one, I've got negative 39 here in the middle, maybe a negative 38 on the right, negative 40 on the left. This is going to be a closed circle pointing left. The last few, we had to write and solve an inequality for each story problem. So we want to go slow here and maybe break down each part just to make sure we're understanding. It does say we earn $20 per hour shoveling snow. So probably going to be 20x because we don't know how many hours we're doing that. And it says, how many hours do you need to shovel if you want to earn at least $97? That means 97 or more. So if I'm saying 97 or more, that's greater than or equal to 97. And then 20x would be here on the left-hand side. I'll write that a little bit better. 20x is greater than or equal to 97. Then all I got to do is solve it. I'm going to divide both sides by 20. I should get a decimal here. That is okay. Just as long as you're setting up your, this was part 1, writing it correctly, and part 2 is solving it correctly. I get x is greater than or equal to 4.85. So at least 4.85 hours. Okay. The next one is also a word problem, and then that's going to conclude our review. So let's read through it, take our time, and make sure we understand how to solve it. You had some money and then loaned your friend $13. How much money could you have started with if you know that you have no less than $15 left? No less than means I have $15 or more. So no less than 15 means 15 or 16 or 17. So that's greater than or equal to 15. Because I loaned my friend $13, that means I took away $13 of what I had. So I just want to know how much money did I start off with. So that would be m minus 13 is greater than or equal to 15. That was part 1. Part 2 is solving it. So I'm going to add 13 to both sides. I should get m is greater than or equal to 28. So that means how much money could you have started with if you know you had no less than $15 left? I had no less than $28 to start. Okay? So just be very cautious about how you're setting up your inequality. Again, writing it correctly and then solving